When we look at a movie, a hero is only as great as the shadow cast by their enemy. We remember Luke Skywalker because he had to face a mountain of black armor and mechanical breath. We celebrate the rebellion because they were up against a bureaucracy so cold it could erase a planet with a casual comment. Star Wars isn't just a story series about the light, it is also a masterclass in how to build a monster, which is why today we're stepping out of the suns of Tatooine and into the darkness. From the political masterminds to the tragic fallen sons, these are 20 of the greatest villains in the Star Wars series and why the galaxy wouldn't be worth saving without them. When George Lucas first sat down to write A New Hope, he wasn't just making a space movie, he was tapping into ancient myths, and in every great myth, the villain is more than just a bad guy.
I am your father.
They're a personification of a theme, whether that theme be fear, greed, obsession, even corruption of power. And as film fans, we often find ourselves drawn to the antagonists because they are the ones that drive the plot, which is why in this countdown we're ranking these characters based on their cinematic weight, their importance to the overarching Star Wars lore, and the it factor that makes the character transcend on the screen. At number 20 we have Dryden Voss. Dryden Voss is the personification of high society crime. Unlike the criminals of the grime of the Outer Rim, Voss represents the Crimson Dawn at its most polished and decadent. He's important because he shows us that the galaxy's underworld isn't just thugs in bars, it's also wealthy, sophisticated and deeply integrated into the elite of society. Paul Bettany brings a terrifying politeness to the role, the visual cues such as the permanent scarring on his face that glows red when he's angry, well they all provide a brilliant physical manifestation of his instability. And from a director's lens, his environment, the luxury yacht, is framed to feel claustrophobic despite its opulence, making every scene feel like a cat and mouse game. At number 19 we have the second sister. Even though she originated in a game, Trilla Suduri's story is essential to the Inquisitor lore seen in Rebels and Obi-Wan Kenobi. She represents the tragedy of the Jedi Purge, Padawan broken by torture and turned into a weapon. Her importance lies in showing the psychological toll the Empire takes on its victims. And if we look from a filmmaker perspective, her design is pure Gothic horror. The sleek predatory helmet and the way she moves with aggressive fluid animation makes her feel like a relentless hunter. In any visual medium, she serves as a reminder that the most dangerous enemies are the ones who are fueled by personal betrayal. At 18 we have General Grievous. Grievous is a fascinating bridge between the organic and the mechanical, a precursor to the technology that would eventually keep Darth Vader alive. He is the ultimate trophy hunter, using the lightsabers of fallen Jedi to mock the order he loathes. In Revenge of the Sith, Grievous was a landmark for CGI, a multi-limbed creature that required intra-choreography. He functions as a Saturday morning cartoon villain in the best way possible. He's loud, cowardly and visually striking, providing a necessary physical challenge for Obi-Wan that doesn't always rely on force, wizardry and Jedi. 17 we have Baylan Skoll. Baylan is a breath of fresh air in the villain category because he isn't a Sith and he isn't a mindless servant of the Empire. He's a wary survivor who sees the cycle of light and dark as a tragedy. He's important because he challenges the binary morality of Star Wars, looking for a way to break the wheel entirely. The late Ray Stevenson gave Baylan a heavy presence. He fights like a medieval broadsword master, deliberate, powerful and stoic, and the lighting in most of his scenes often uses shadow to emphasise his ambiguity, making him one of the most sophisticated film fan characters in recent years. At 16 we have Dedra Meero from Andor. Dedra is arguably the most grounded villain the franchise has ever seen. She represents the terrifyingly mundane reality of the Empire because she isn't driven by a connection to the dark side but by a chillingly relatable desire for career advancement and overall order. Her importance in the series lies within the banality of evil. The way she's framed in each shot in the sterile white halls of the ICB creates clinical dread. She doesn't need a lightsaber because her weapon is a data pad of knowledge. She shows us that the Empire's real strength is the dedicated, intelligent people willing to do anything to keep the machine running. At 15 we have Orson Krennic, or Director Krennic. Director Krennic is the personification of toxic ambition. He didn't build the Death Star for the Emperor, he built it for his own legacy. He's important because he highlights the internal squabbling and ego-driven politics that eventually led to the Empire's downfall. Ben Mendelsohn plays Krennic with a desperate, frantic energy that contrasts perfectly with Vader's stillness, and we have that white cape shown against the black sands of Lamu, or the grey halls of the Death Star, which is a stunning visual choice, marking him as a man who desperately wants to be noticed in a system that really doesn't care about him. At number 14 we have Syril Karn. Syril is a character studying radicalization. He isn't a high-ranking official, he's a low-level corporate security officer who becomes obsessed with justice at the cost of his own life. He shows us how the Empire's rhetoric can twist even a normal person into a zealot. The cinematography of Cyril's life, including the cramped apartment with his mother and the ill-fitting uniform, they create a sense of pathetic desperation. He's a villain we almost pity, which makes his transition into a stalker-like evil figure even more unsettling for the watching audience. At number 13 we have Boba Fett from the original trilogy. We have to look at the original Boba here. He's the man who won the lottery of coolest character design at the time. He represents the lawless frontier of the galaxy, where even Vader has to hire outside help. Fett is a masterclass in movie making of the less is more style, with minimal dialogue. His armor tells the story, including the dent in the helmet and what we think are Wookiee scalps on his shoulder. And from a filmmaking standpoint, he's about the power of the silhouette. He proved that if a character looks cool enough, then fans will build the legend themselves. At number 12, we have one of the original bad guys, Grand Moff Tarkin. Tarkin is the old guard. He represents the transition from a republic of senators to an empire of soldiers. He is the only character in the original film who treats Darth Vader almost like a subordinate, immediately establishing his power without ever really having to raise his voice. When we look at this, Peter Cushing, who brought hammer horror elegance to the role, well, he uses sharp British dictation and cold flair to provide a human face to the faceless tyranny of the Death Star. He is the personification of the Tarkin doctrine, ruling through fear and force. At number 11, we have Jabba the Hutt. Jabba almost represents the third power level in the galaxy. Empires and rebellions come and go, but the cartels and gangsters are eternal. He's important because he grounds the epic space opera in the grim reality of organised crime. Jabba is a triumph of practical effects, a massive puppet that required several operators, and he still feels real in a way that CGI often struggles to replicate. He's disgusting, stationary, and yet in complete control. A brilliant subversion to the typical action villain. Okay, so we've just seen there a few crime lords and bureaucrats. Now let's move into the top 10, because these characters didn't just challenge the heroes, they actually define the Force itself. At number 10, we have the Grand Inquisitor. He is the intellectual side of the dark side, a former temple guard who knows the Jedi secrets better than they do. He represents the tragedy of the Order's collapse, a man who switched sides because he saw the writing on the wall. The character design uses sharp angular lines and high contrast red and black palettes to create an immediate sense of danger, because he treats hunting Jedi like a fine dining experience, bringing a theatricality to the series that makes his presence feel like an amazing performance. At number 9, we have Moff Gideon. Gideon is the Imperial remnant at its most dangerous. He represents the refusal to let the old ways die. His obsession with Grogu's blood and his lightsaber shows a man trying to synthesize the Empire's technology with the Jedi's mysticism. Giancarlo Esposito is the king of the composed villain, and when he steps out of his TIE fighter, he doesn't need to yell because his stillness is what's terrifying. He brings a prestige TV element and extra weight to the Star Wars universe. At number 8, we have Cad Bane. Cad Bane is the answer to the question, how do you fight a Jedi without the Force? Well, he's a specialized tool. A bounty hunter uses gadgets, psychology, and pure ruthlessness to bridge the gap between human and superhuman. And when we think about the character, he's a literal spaghetti western character dropped into space. He's got the wide-brimmed hat, the toothpick, and the robotic breathing tubes to create an iconic space cowboy look that is instantly recognizable and effortlessly cool for a villain. At number 7, we have Asajj Ventress. Ventress has arguably the best character arc in the franchise, starting as Dooku's assassin. She's betrayed and eventually becomes a bounty hunter with her own code. She represents the disposable nature of the Sith and the possibility of finding a third path. Her bald head, pale skin, and curved lightsabers give her a serpentine predatory look, and her movement is more acrobatic than almost any other character, making her duels within the series some of the most visually dynamic in that entire animated series. At number 6, we have Count Dooku. Dooku is the sophisticated face of evil. He was a political idealist who left a corrupt Jedi Order only to be corrupted by something far worse. He is the bridge between the refined Republic and the brutal Empire. Then we had Christopher Lee, who brought old Hollywood prestige to Star Wars. He fights with the elegance of a fencer, and his performance is a masterclass in subtlety. He doesn't look like a monster, he speaks with calm and politeness, which makes his cruelty all the more impactful. At number 5, we have Kylo Ren. Kylo is the most human villain in the saga. He isn't a stoic machine, he's a raw nerve, and he represents the reverse Vader, a man struggling with the pull to the light rather than the pull to the dark. His importance lies in showing the burden of legacy. Adam Driver's performance is transformative. The unstable, flickering blade of his lightsaber is a perfect visual metaphor for his fractured psyche, and from the costume to the cinematography, every scene with Kylo Ren feels volatile and dangerous and really elevates the sequels a little further. At number 4, we have Grand Admiral Thrawn. Thrawn is the villain for the thinking fan. He doesn't use the Force, he uses art, history, and philosophy. He represents the Empire as a cold, logical meritocracy. He is the only villain who truly loves his enemies' cultures, even as he uses that knowledge to destroy them. Visually, he is a gift to the eyes. The blue skin and the glowing red eyes set against a pristine white uniform demand attention. He forces the heroes to grow because you can't outlook a man who has predicted your every move based on a painting that he's seen in your living room. And number 3, we have Darth Maul. Maul evolved from a cool silent threat into a Shakespearean tragic figure. Driven by a singular burning hatred for Obi-Wan Kenobi, he built a criminal empire just to get revenge. He represents the pure destructive power of obsession within the Empire. His introduction in Episode 1 remains a high watermark for stunt choreography, but his evolution in animation, the mechanical legs, the frantic eyes, well, they turned him into a deep, complex character. His final duel with Obi-Wan in Rebels is perhaps the most poetic 2 minutes of film within that entire series. At number 2, we have Emperor Palpatine, the ultimate puppet master, we might say. Every war, every tragedy, and every fallen hero can be traced back to his manipulation. He is the personification of the idea that democracy dies with thunderous applause. He didn't conquer the galaxy, he basically tricked it and manipulated it into giving him the keys. Ian McDiarmid is clearly having the time of his life for this character, from the grandfathered Chancellor to the cackling Sith Lord. His range is truly incredible. He is the dark centre around which the entire galaxy orbits. At number 1, we have Darth Vader. It had to be him. Vader isn't just the best Star Wars villain, he is the gold standard for every villain ever written. He is the tragedy of the prequels, the terror of the originals, and the ghost that haunts the sequels. He represents the core theme of the entire franchise, and that is redemption. Vader is a triumph of collaborative filmmaking. He is the physical presence of David Prowse, the legendary voice of James Earl Jones, the design of Ralph McQuarrie, and the sound of Ben Burt. That heavy breathing is a character in itself, and every time Vader steps on the screen, he dominates it. He is the beginning, the middle, and the end of why we love Star Wars and Star Wars villains. So there we have it, 20 names, 1 galaxy in ruins. When we look at these characters, we aren't just looking at the bad guys, we're looking at the craftsmanship that makes Star Wars an enduring myth and an amazing series. These characters challenge our heroes, they test our morals, and let's be honest, they look incredibly cool while doing it. Did we miss anyone? Did we miss anything? Were we wrong in our details? Who did we miss? Was Thrawn too low? Is Dedra scarier than Vader? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into the dark side, make sure to hit like and subscribe for more explorations into films we love. May the Force be with you today, and make sure to keep your lightsaber handy for the next one.